Hi folks, today's video is a wrap up of the books that I've read in the first week of October, which began with my reread, or the finishing of my reread of The Raven Cycle, and this is Blue Lily, Lily Blue and The Raven King. I talked briefly about the first two in the series last time, and I have reviewed these all very recently, but I just want to say that I have upped the star rating from a 4-star to 5-star on all of these books, and I think that they're books that really benefit from a reread and that you get a lot more from them the second time around. You notice obviously the foreshadowing that she does, but also little quirks of the characters' personalities that kind of come together when you've read the whole series and then go back. And yeah, the things that bothered me the first time around to do with Blue's politics didn't bother me nearly so much this time around, maybe because I was looking for them more. But yeah, I think overall these books are fantastic and are definitely going to be on my favourites of the year list. Unfortunately, the next book that I have here was not so great, and I had high hopes for this, so high that I ordered a copy especially from the States, and it cost me quite a lot of money, which is why I persevered for as long as I did with this. I got about halfway through. So it's Into That Good Night by Lewis Keltner, and this has been compared to The Secret History. Always a dangerous thing, but I thought that it sounded really quite good, a bit of a Stranger Things vibe to it. And instead I was just really bored. I found it difficult to connect with or find any interest in any of the characters. And there's just a lot of, I mean, I'm halfway through this book and it's just been a whole lot of them digging in the woods, and I swear nothing has happened. So the premise at the beginning is that this girl has been found murdered in the woods, and her sister wants to find out what's happened to her, and so does these other characters, and they all come together and go searching for evidence. And so far they've found nothing, and I don't care anymore. Not that I really cared to start with. The other annoying thing that this book does is that it's written in third person, but it jumps between different people's points of view. And this can be done really well, and when it's done well, you don't even notice that it's happening. So Jane Austen is a great example of this, where mostly you're looking from the female protagonist's point of view, but occasionally she'll slip into somebody else's viewpoint, and you don't actually notice that that's their point of view because it's done so seamlessly. But in this, I was reading going, hang on, whose viewpoint am I from at the moment? And it was just such hard work. And from page one, I didn't like the writing. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend this in the slightest. I don't think it has many redeeming qualities unless they all occur in the second half of the book. But if you have read this or know anything more about this, let me know. But yes, I think it would take a lot of persuading to get me to finish this book. But on the plus side, there's a new Kate Atkinson, and her writing is always fantastic. And so this one's called Transcription, and it's set during the Second World War. At least the part of it is. There are flashbacks. So this woman who worked as an MI5 agent in the Second World War is now in the 1950s, and she's looking back on her time during the war. And the idea of this is that there's an MI5 agent who is posing as a Gestapo undercover spy, but he's actually an MI5 spy, and he is acting as a Gestapo informant in London. This is during the first part of the Second World War. And so there are Nazi informants who meet and give him information, and little do they know that this information is being recorded in this little flat in London and is being transcribed. And that's the job of our protagonist. She is transcribing, typing out the conversations that she hears. And of course, she doesn't get all of the conversations. She gets little snippets sometimes, and you know, if there's a rustling of paper, then that bit can't be transcribed because they can't hear what the people are saying. And you get this in the book as well. You get the transcriptions as well as the story. So that's quite neat, and I like the way that she wrote those. Yeah, so there are these flashbacks, and she's trying to figure out what happened during the war, because there were certain things that went on that weren't explained at the time. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say. But I think if you like something like Agent Carter, you probably quite like this book. It's got that girl power spy undercover kind of vibe to it. Yeah, and of course Kate Atkinson's writing and descriptions of these characters is just fantastic. So then I read The Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor, which is the second in the Strange the Dreamer duology. So this is a follow-on from the previous story, which I read last month. Unfortunately, the second book came out this month, so I didn't have long to wait. I probably can't talk much about this without talking about the events of Strange the Dreamer, but our main character is a librarian, and there are these other characters who are sort of gods, sort of alien creatures. It's made very clear from the beginning that all of this is not in our universe. The characters have two hearts, which is one of the main ways that they show us this. But yeah, there are these other creatures as well who are blue. And yeah, there's not a lot more that I can say. But there was one character I really liked whose storyline is very small in this, and I wanted to see more of. But he goes from being a very pompous, arrogant, thinking the world revolves around him kind of guy, and ends up having this really interesting character arc, which I really enjoyed, and like I say, I wanted more of. Oh, there are some LGBT characters in this as well, which I appreciated. And yeah, that's, like I said, probably all I can say without going into spoiler territory. But needless to say, I was impressed. Then we had The Western Wind by Samantha Harvey, which I'd heard great things about, and this was very good. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars. I wasn't overwhelmed by it, but I thought it was very masterfully done. This is another book that starts out with a murder or a death, and under mysterious circumstances, and this reminded me of The Crucible by Arthur Miller quite a lot, because you've got this hunt for the killer, and it feels a lot like a witch hunt because of the times that it's set in, and it's set around that time in the UK, in this small town, and our main character is a priest, a Catholic priest, and he takes the confession, so he gets all these different snippets of people's lives and finds out all sorts of interesting things about them. So that's threaded throughout, and of course he is roped in by the dean, who is an outsider who comes in to figure out what happened with the death of this man. And so he's supposed to be feeding information to the dean, and so there are issues of confidentiality there. I thought, yeah, this was really well done. I didn't love it as much as many people have, but I thought that atmosphere, that kind of oppressive atmosphere, was very well done. And although it's not a hunt for witches, it certainly has that feeling to it. Alright, so the final book I listened to the audiobook of, and this is A History of Magic, which is based on the British Library exhibition that happened, was it last year, I think? And I've got the book of this. The book is beautiful, and it's got all the illustrations and pictures of the items from the exhibition. But the audiobook is very interesting. It's read by Natalie Dormer, who has a lovely voice, and you get different snippets from different people, different experts on Harry Potter, on writing, on history, and particular types of history. So it's a huge cast in that sense, but it's all threaded together by Natalie Dormer's narration. And you get a bit from Stephen Fry and from Jim Dale, the UK and US narrators of the Harry Potter audiobooks. And yeah, I thought that worked very well. Interestingly enough, it seems that the information in the History of Magic book is not identical to what is in the audiobook. So the audiobook has essays from different people, and those seem to be cut. They've been cut and chopped if they have been used. And you've also got these extra bits that I don't think are in the book. I'm not exactly sure what the differences are because I haven't read through all the text of the physical book itself, but they talk about the same objects and issues in the book. So I would recommend, if you're going to listen to the audiobook, see if you can get hold of a copy either from a library or buy a copy of the History of Magic book. Not only because it is beautiful, but because it will give you so much more depth to your understanding of all these things that they're talking about. They do a very good job of describing the objects, but yeah, it always helps to see them. So those were the books that I read in the first week of October. Been reading quite a bit recently, which is good. Listening to lots of audiobooks because I've been going for long walks with the dog and spending quite a bit of time drawing things because it is Inktober and I've got client work on as well. So yeah, lots of time to just listen to an audiobook while I draw, which is fantastic. It's my favourite thing. So yeah, while Into That Good Night, this one here, was not very good. The one that I'm reading at the moment and have nearly finished is everything that I wish this book had been. So, and that was a real surprise to me. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I have. So I will talk about that in the next wrap up. In the meantime, if you'd like to follow me on Goodreads, then that's the place to keep up with what I'm reading when. And if you want to see what I'm doing Inktober-wise, then that is on Instagram. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!